Good evening. How's my audio there? Let's get this turned off. You hear me all right, Ember? You can hear me, I can't hear you. I have a fix for that though, I think. Maybe. Exactly. I can't hear me either. I'm going to reset my mic. Might be my mic. How about now?
I can hear you.
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Put up my video.
Oh, maybe it's video. You know, Restream is a little finicky, so I apologize for some of that.
There
we go. Hopefully. I can hear you. So I'm glad you could come on. I saw you on Mike Reed's channel. I was like, he's been everywhere. And until about 2 weeks ago, I'd never heard of you. And then I see you basically on like star-studded. You've been on everything.
Well, we're working on that part, but you know, I pop in here and there when I can.
Yeah, I like your taste in hats, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, all the cool kids. I don't always wear a hat, but when I see somebody wearing a hat, like I certainly can't let it go. I gotta emulate Ember. So I wanted to just chat on if you are right. I don't know how long we're gonna go. We're gonna see if anybody watches this. Who cares? Nobody does. And I don't. You know, I saw you around. I don't know where I saw you, but you were on something, then you were on something else, and I was like, okay, let me watch something. I watched a couple of your videos, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good stuff. You've got great commentary, great presence.
Well, thank you.
And, you know, I thought I'd chit-chat with you, find out a little bit of your backstory, and see where the conversation goes.
Yeah. I've been poking around on you know, mainly I've been doing the debate reviews with Mark Reed, back and forth between his channel and my channel. I've been on Skeptics and Scoundrels a lot in the last month because Eric likes to have co-pilots for his live streams, and you know, in the first live stream he did, I had to teach him how to use StreamYard while we were on the air.
Oh my.
He's like, what's this button do?
Yeah.
How do I end the broadcast? I'm like, hey, I mean, you know, it's all good. It's all good.
That's funny. You're a StreamYard user yourself?
Well, it varies. I use OBS for my actual recordings, and then I use StreamYard for the streams because it's easier to bring guests in than it is with OBS. Although Peter DeTucker is planning on teaching me how to use the two together so that I can have cool streams like Amy Newman.
Yeah, Amy Newman does have some pretty cool streams. I concur. I'm a Restream user.
It's my first time in this software.
EV Mux was my first choice, but I just couldn't get a lot of things to work. And I was comfortable with Restream. I don't know how much you can see on your end, but you know, it's a pretty nice layout, and I'm used to it. I can one-man show. I can be my own producer, director, idiot savant. Like the last stream, I felt I did pretty good managing the comments displaying, because if anybody says anything in the chat, like Chris Moore just said something, it's gonna pop up, and I can give a good shout out. And I just like the, you know, I've got the banner down at the bottom. I've got all these graphics. You saw my intro. I use that as my intro and outro. I can put my free gift of salvation across the screen. Nice. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Like I've got a lot of things on demand. Restream has a lot of things already set up, so I could do, and I always have this turned off, but I could do, you know, weird things here too. It's just like, you know, I don't use them though. They're not my cup of tea. Let's hide that and turn this off.
Yeah,
Oh
sometimes
yeah,
overlays can be fun.
overlays and underlays and backgrounds and stuff like that. It's yeah. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Fair
And
enough.
I can also make with the subscription that I have, I can also make 3 other people my co-hosts. But nobody likes Restream. I'm like a island of my own. So
Yeah, I'd never even heard of it. Of course, I started doing lives through OBS, but then I wanted to have like co-hosts and stuff, and I didn't know how to do that through OBS. And I saw Amy Newman was using StreamYard, thought about it, and then I saw a bunch of other people were using StreamYard. I'm like, I'll have a look at this.
So yeah. Oh, Michael Gardner's on. I like him. He's so nice. I play poker with him. And then Chris Moore, he's a regular around the town. He makes some appearances every once in a while. You know what? We're just chit-chatting today. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Just chit-chatting. So, so one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, if you remember, what was your first atheist content maker? Because clearly, watching what I've seen from you, you obviously had some sort of evangelical fundy background. My guess is,
Not exactly. My
yeah.
grandmother was super, super Christian. My parents, I didn't find out until after I turned 18, but they were neo-pagans. They kept their beliefs completely hidden from the kids.
Huh.
So we had to come to our own conclusions. And my grandmother kept pushing like hell to get me to go to church. And because I was a curious child, I would go with her because I wanted to know what the hell she was talking about. But because I was a curious child, I kept asking questions, and the pastors did not like that. They kept asking her to not bring me back.
So you've never been a true Christian.
Well, I guess it depends on your definition.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the Navy, I did do a communion thing, like eat the cracker and whatnot. So by some people's definitions, once saved, always saved, or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've never really gotten into it.
Baptism.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I am one step removed from that. Then I've never gone up and gotten a cracker and partaken in a communion. In the fundamental evangelical circle that I grew up in, you chose to get baptized, so I was never baptized. And once again, just like you said, I decided I was going to get baptized, and I started reading the Bible. I was like, well, first I'm going to read the Bible, and then I'll go get baptized. And just like you said, started asking questions. The Sunday school teacher did not like those questions at all. And ultimately, I believe I was told something that wasn't true. Whether or not the person who told it to me, I don't believe they were telling a lie directly, but I do believe they believed something that was a lie.
Yeah, that seems to happen a lot. I've noticed a lot of people. In high school, I was on the debate team, and I used my ill-gotten superpowers to engage with my theistic friends and be like, "Why do you believe this? It doesn't make any sense to me. Can you explain, the Trinity, or can you explain what the fuck was up with the Garden of Eden, or all the different things?" And it usually turned into, combat. Woohoo! Bonus window.
Yeah, we'll put that up. Yeah, you can do this and then just let the chat stroll on the side. Yeah. What about your first atheist video that you soaked in, or?
So I think I didn't write it down, of course. But what had happened is I was randomly cruising YouTube, found Forrest Velkai, his science channel, and
Oh, really?
I love science content, and Forrest just has so much enthusiasm. I was like,
Right.
yeah, this is the man. And then because I watched a lot of Forrest Velkai, once he started hosting on the Atheist Experience, YouTube started showing me the Atheist Experience, and I was like, what's this now? So
Huh.
then I started watching, and they showed a bunch of the classic episodes, with Matt Dillahunty and Jen Peebles and uh, Russell Glass and so forth. And I was like, this is fascinating. I didn't realize there was like a whole community of non-believers.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Now, how long has Forrest been an atheist YouTuber? Because I only saw him, I want to say within the last 6 months, but he's huge.
He is. He's over 200,000 subscribers just on YouTube.
Yeah.
He did get a bit of a head start because I interviewed him for the Comic Con that I've got coming up this weekend. He's one of the guests, and basically he started like many people on TikTok during 2020 when no one could go outside or do anything, and he built up a decent fan base there. Then decided he wanted to make longer videos, so he just naturally migrated to YouTube and brought many of his fans with him, which
Hmm.
gave him a jump start in the algorithm, which helped him get big really fast. So I believe he's been at it for like 2 or 3 years on YouTube.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. I've watched one of my favorite videos though of him is he gets somebody to admit that, you just can't have somebody going around writing these holy texts and claiming that they're from God. And he's like, oh, what are you doing with your holy book?
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but recently I heard someone say that it's almost like the book was written on a dare.
Right.
Like, how ridiculous can we make this and you'll still believe it?
I completely agree with that sentiment. I mean, in my live stream yesterday, I basically flat out laid my cards on the table. I think the moment that the trees are introduced, it's like a card game. That the way if you've ever played Rummy 500, right? Do you know that game at all?
I used to play Rummy, but it was so long ago I can't even remember the
It's
rules of
yeah,
the
it's
basic version.
yeah. Rummy is where you play several games to accumulate 500 points.
Okay.
So one of the strategies in that is to lay down a card purposely that you want and let other people lay cards on that. And then you pick up the stack and you can kind of control the game from there. You keep laying down the cards you want to pick back up and you keep going in consecutive order like that. And you keep picking up the cards you want and kind of controlling the game, controlling the discard pile. And to me, the trees, the way they're mentioned once, then they're mentioned a second time, and then they're mentioned the third time is when they've got you. That's when they control the game. And so to say it's on a dare, maybe it's not on a dare, but I do believe somebody figured out how to get into the human psyche and make them believe that the high priest should be bestowed all these gifts for a being that doesn't exist. And once they figured out how to do that, they figured out how to make a contemporary version of it and make it even more grand. And did it again. And then a couple 100 years pass by and they do it again. And then the last ones kind of lasted 2,000 years with reinventions. And I think that the latest invention is how many demons we can scare up.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Demons
so,
are popular.
like, yeah, I mean to tell you, I really never paid attention to people having demons, saying demons, referring to demons. It's no big deal. But in around the last 6-7 months, it's exploded. The YouTube shorts may be the reason that it's exploded, and YouTube shorts have been around for about 6-7 months. Like of Christian content, the number of YouTube shorts that say and reference demons coming to get you in one form or another is at least 33.3%.
It very well could be. I haven't checked recently, but I have noticed a sharp increase in demon content coming from the atheist side, which may be a response to the increase
Mine
in
is
demon content on the
directly a
Christian side.
response because I was called a demon.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I
And I'm
suppose
like,
we
if
all are
I'm a
after that.
demon, then that should be my evidence. Like that should be my evidence right there. If I am a demon, then I have the evidence. And I don't have the evidence. Why don't you show me the evidence that I'm a demon?
Right.
Like that's the kind of way I think of it. So that gave me the idea of, hey, you prove the devil exists. I know you can't prove Jesus and you can't prove your God because they're invisible and they got this plan or something, but you can prove the devil. You just accuse the devil of doing something like last week. I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So bring that evidence to me and then show me the alibi that these 8 entities actually exist and that devil character isn't working with any of them like in the bet with Job.
Right. Yeah, the whole Job thing is another fun one. I'm like, have you read this story and you still think this is a good God?
This is a good God. Of course it is. Let's
I
see.
recently found out that while much of the books of Moses had been oral stories for generations upon generations, the first story that actually got written was Job. So chronologically, it's the oldest book in the whole Bible. And I'm like, that
I've
was for a period, that was the only book, and people still thought this was a good idea.
I've heard contrary evidence to that. Actually, I've watched a lot more Forest than I thought I had. And there's
He's sneaky.
I know I've watched his most popular one. Nearly has 1,000,000 views, 923,000 views. It says scientist reacts to 6 reasons not to believe in evolution. I don't remember watching it.
Hmm.
The next one I've watched was a year ago. Are we the same? And it's some sort of humanoid. I don't know. Debunking evolution. Science reacts. Rectoria.
Yeah,
And
his
then
reaction is
a year ago, biologist and bigot do mutations prove creationism.
yep,
And that one I remember watching. It's got Mount Powell in the thing. I think I remember watching that.
yep. Everybody's got a dunk on Matt Powell.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that fun?
Oh, for
Uh
sure.
so I must have gotten yeah. Watch out for Jimmy the Python. I apparently have watched part of that one.
Hmm.
And Secret Science in the Bible. I've watched that one. And we argue that faith is bad. I don't remember seeing that one either. And then that's about it. Of his most popular ones, though, I've seen around 6 out of the top 12 at least. That's not too bad. You don't remember which one was your first?
No, it I'm sure it was a Reacteria because those
Hmm.
are super popular, so they'll get recommended by the algorithm most. And it wasn't anything like his big production content, like the Sex and Sensibility video, or the Light of Evolution, where it's him presenting original material rather than just reacting on it. So I'm sure it was a Reacteria, but I just don't remember which one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what my first atheist video was. At first I was kind of against it. I was watching, a lot of content that was debate, Bart Ehrman debates type of thing. And it recommended the debate with Sam Harris and William Lane Craig. And at the time I watched that, I remember thinking, Sam Harris didn't win this debate because he really didn't talk about what the debate was about, but he clearly made much better points in his time at the pulpit. And
That's
it
probably
stood the
fair.
test of time. Everything that he said has gotten more and more true.
Oh no.
And the things that William Lane Craig has said, in my opinion, have gotten more and more false. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody who argues the Kalam for 2 hours, in my book, the Kalam does not get better with age, in my opinion. There's nothing about it that one day we wake up and you go, oh, the Kalam. Of course. How did I not see it before?
Yeah, that one's a fun one too, because my first exposure to the Kalam was a caller on the Atheist Experience, and um, I think it was Matt Dillahunty and Jim Burrows were on that day, and they both just tore that guy apart. They were like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now? This
Yeah.
is the most tired, outdated argument." And I'm like, "What is this thing?" Well, I ignored it, but then it kept coming up and coming up as I was watching more stuff, and I'm like, "All right, I got to find out what this is." And I
Yeah.
read it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. This is what is it? Thomas Aquinas. You know, he had the 5 arguments, and the Kalam is basically 4 of them bolted together with a William Lane Craig insert.
Yeah.
Anything that begins to exist has a cause.
Yeah, I don't know the philosophical arguments that well, but anybody who comes with the philosophical argument, it's already a non-starter. Like, yeah, yes, I'll grant you that somebody was a part of the origins of me, but I don't know him. I know this: my dad, he definitely did something naughty to my mom a month after the wedding. I know it to be sure. That's how I got here.
That is the traditional method.
That's the traditional method. And, you know, I'm pretty sure his dad did something naughty to his mom within a certain period of time after the wedding. And it goes by, like, as far as I can tell, it goes on like that for an awfully long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, unless you could prove that there was a creation story sometime within the last 4 or 5 generations of people who I have heard directly stories about, the Kalam makes no sense to me. It's just useless. The philosophical argument of eventually whoever you're declaring is the one that created has to have a mom or dad that did something to him after the wedding.
Yeah. It's a similar problem with the argument from complexity. Like, everything that's complex needs to have a creator.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the creator, by definition, is the most complex thing around. So what created that?
Yeah. Well, I've got an old BMW manual transmission convertible sitting in my garage. And right next to it is a BMW X5 that's very new. And as far as I know, I have never walked out there and they were doing the naughty.
Well, that's why you have
And
no minis.
and yeah, I can only imagine what kind of car would pop out the tailpipe of one of those.
Well, it starts as a Hot Wheel.
It starts as a Hot
It
Wheel. It's
eventually
nurtured with
grows up
gasoline,
into a go-kart.
gasoline, petroleum, and motor oil and antifreeze for a certain period of time until it can spread its wheels and fly through the wind. Yeah.
Now I
Yeah,
have a terrible idea for a video. It's more of a Robot Chicken kind of video, though. So
yeah, I don't watch those very often, but when somebody plays a clip of them, like Believe It or Not podcast on their video essays, they'll play some Robot Chicken every once in a while.
cool.
So
I miss watching that. There's no time for TV anymore.
oh yeah, I don't watch TV very much. I watching the Cubs game earlier tonight, and we watched a little bit of Premier League over the weekend, but that's about it. Sam's got a savage clip on that debate. 58-45. Michael Gardner says we should. Do you remember the debate between William Lane Craig and Sam Harris?
No, I never saw that one.
So
The only Craig debate I've actually seen, maybe I'll add that to the rotation with the debate reviews with Mark, but the only Craig debate I've seen was the first one against Hitchens, because I discovered Hitchens and I was like, I have to see more of this man work.
Yeah, let's listen to. Let's go about a minute back. All right.
Poor
But on
Bill.
Dr. Harris's view, there is no freedom of the will.
It's 1, 2, 5, all right?
Or a compatibilistic
Yeah.
sense, and therefore there is no moral responsibility. So there isn't even the possibility of moral duty on his view.
He said
So
duty.
while I can affirm and applaud Dr. Harris's affirmation of the objectivity of moral values and moral duties, at the end of the day, his philosophical worldview just doesn't ground these entities that we both want to affirm. If God exists, then we clearly have a sound foundation for objective moral values and moral duties. But if God does not exist, that is, if atheism is true, then there is no basis for the affirmation of objective moral values, and there is no ground for objective moral duties, because there is no moral lawgiver, and there is no freedom of the will.
Ben,
And therefore, it seems to
I
me that
completely
atheism is
concur.
simply, bereft
Sean
of the
Carroll,
adequate
William Lane
ontological
Craig debate
foundation
is
to
amazing.
establish the moral life.
Dr. Harris now has 12 minutes. Timekeeper, are you ready? Begin.
Well, that was all very interesting. Ask yourselves, what is wrong with spending eternity in hell? Well, I'm told it's rather hot there, for one. Dr. Craig is not offering an alternative view of morality. Okay, the whole point of Christianity, or so it is imagined, is to safeguard the eternal well-being of human souls. Now, happily, there's absolutely no evidence that the Christian hell exists. Okay, and
I remember this.
I think we should look at the consequences of believing in this framework, this theistic framework, in this world, and what these moral underpinnings actually would be. All right. 9 million children die every year before they reach the age of 5. Okay, picture.
Yeah. You know what? There's a better... Somebody took and made a video of this. You know, I'm going to let this play and I'm going to try to find it.
Tsunami of the sort we saw in 2004 that killed 250,000 people. One of those every 10 days.
Yeah, this is a
killing
great
children
commentary.
only under 5. Okay, it's 24,000 children a day, 1,000 an hour, 17 or so a minute. That means before I can get to the end of this sentence, some few children, very likely, will have died in terror and agony.
It's an uplifting thought.
Think of the parents of these children.
Oh, yeah.
Think of the fact that most of these men and women believe in God and are praying at this moment for their children to be spared. And their prayers will not be answered. Okay, but according to Dr. Craig, this is all part of God's plan. Any God who would allow children by the millions to suffer and die in this way, and their parents to grieve in this way, either can do nothing to help them or doesn't care to. He is therefore either impotent or evil.
Let me see if I can find if I can remember the content maker.
And worse than that, on Dr. Craig's view, most of these people, many of these people certainly, will be going to hell because they're praying to the wrong God. Just think about that. Okay, through no fault of their own, they were born into the wrong culture where they got the wrong theology and they missed the revelation. Okay, there are 1.2 billion people in India at this moment. Most of them are Hindus, most of them therefore polytheists. Okay, in Dr. Craig's universe, no matter how good these people are, they are doomed. If you are praying to the monkey god Hanuman, you are doomed. Okay? You will be tortured in hell for eternity. Now, is there the slightest evidence for this?
You might get hell bananas.
It just says so in Mark 9,
bananas.
Matthew 13, and Revelation 14. Okay, perhaps you'll remember from the Lord of the Rings, it says when the elves die, they go to Valinor, but they can be reborn in Middle-earth. Okay, I say that just as a point of comparison. Okay, so God created the cultural isolation of the Hindus. Okay, he engineered the circumstance of their deaths in ignorance of revelation. And then he created the penalty for this ignorance, which is an eternity of conscious torment in fire. Okay, on the other hand, on Dr. Craig's account, your run-of-the-mill serial killer in America, okay, who spent his life raping and torturing children,
I wonder if it's been taken down.
need only come to God, come to Jesus on death row. And after a final meal of fried chicken, he's going to spend an eternity in heaven after death. Okay, one thing should be crystal clear to you. This vision of life has absolutely nothing to do with moral accountability. Okay, and please notice the double standard that people like Dr. Craig use to exonerate from all this evil. Okay, we're told that God is loving and kind and just and intrinsically good.
Yeah,
But when
just
someone like myself points out the rather obvious and compelling evidence that
morality.
God is cruel and unjust because he
What's that now?
Just tautology, the morality. You define morality as whatever God thinks, whatever God says, whatever coincides with God's murderous nature is definitionally moral. So it's impossible for God to be immoral.
Yeah. I'm not able to find the one that I wonder if it's been taken down because it's not in my liked videos either.
Yeah. It's gotten sneaky.
Yeah, it was well done. It was, but I did hear that the person who had done it had some sort of copyright issues. So it may not, it's probably still somewhere on the webs, but no longer available.
It happens from time to time.
Planet Curious. Horseman species. Yeah. Battle the ascots. Do you wear ascots from time to time?
Isn't an ascot like a super wide tie or something?
It is it's like a cross between a scarf and a, let me make sure. An ascot is a man's broad silk necktie. It's like a cross between the flat end of a tie and a
I'll have to upgrade my level of fabulousness.
it almost looks more like you stuffed a scarf in your shirt. So it is good to see you, BS. I hope you're feeling well. Thanks for the compliment, by the way. You're so. It's also the style of hat. Oh, I call this a driver cap or a paperboy. What do you call your cap?
Irish.
Irish. Yeah.
My grandfather used to always wear one like this, except with like plaid on it, but he was also a golf fanatic, so it may have been a golfer cap. I don't know. I was very young at the time, but I like the style much better than like baseball caps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. I've got a work text that's going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right now. So, yeah, I very much remember that speech, and somebody made a really good, nice video about it. But my guess is that guy got taken down, or it was almost like
Irish paperboy. It is.
Irish paperboy. It is. I've been corrected. Irish paperboy. Yeah. I've seen them called a couple of other caps as well. Boston. Somebody calls them a Boston, which might as well call it Irish. Yeah. I've heard them called a couple of things. So, yeah.
I love Boston. The people are really loud, but pretty friendly.
Yeah, I was a bartender in downtown Chicago for a substantial amount of time, and Boston and Chicagoans usually got together pretty well. I mean, they're kind of a mixed bag, very similar European influence, maybe a lot more diverse of that European influence, but definitely the similar thing. I always found Philadelphia fans to be much more loud than the Boston and Chicago fans.
That's probably fair. I've never compared the loudness of the sports ball teams.
Yeah, but the snap wit from the Bostons definitely is Irish. Definitely, they have a soft-spoken voice and a sharp tongue better than anybody in the States. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Alrighty.
So, how much time you thinking you got?
Oh, I'm just kind of winging it at this point. My goal today was to try to be in bed by like 12:30 Eastern, and My
12:30
goal
Eastern?
yesterday was 1 a.m. Eastern, and I made it to bed by 2:30. So
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to like time zone myself into, because for the convention this weekend, I've got to be there at 7 a.m. both days, which means I need to actually go to sleep at a reasonable time to wake up early enough to get there.
When
So inconsiderate.
where is the convention at?
Watertown, New York.
Where is Watertown, New York?
Do you know where Syracuse is?
Yes.
Okay. Go halfway between Syracuse and the Canadian border, heading straight north, and drop a pin, and you'll be right about where Watertown is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of know about where that is. Are you planning? So you said this was a Comic Con?
Yep.
Okay. Never got into comic books myself.
Yeah. Well, comics. It's kind of a hit or miss. It's had some resurgence with the success of the Marvel and DC movies, but they're still not nearly as popular as the movies are. But it's sort of a general term, like every kind of fandom falls under the name Comic Con. We've got anime stuff. There's the Harry Potter fans and furries and Jedi or lightsaber wielding Jedis and anything you can think of. It's all in a Comic Con. Now, an Anime Con is specifically anime, and in Boston they have a Harry Potter convention, which is just Harry Potter stuff. But a Comic Con is freaking everything.
And this is how I find out.
Yeah.
Any atheist conventions that you head to?
I haven't found any around here. The closest that I've heard of so far, and unfortunately their promotion is limited. I usually hear about it because like Dave Warnock is going and he announces it on a show he's on or something. I never get the news from any other source except attendees. But the closest one was like on the other side of Ottawa or something in Canada. I don't have a passport or an enhanced license, so getting to Canada is a little bit of a pain in the ass. But so, yeah, there just hasn't been one close to me that I'm aware of anyway.
Huh. Yeah, I went to a Better Conference last year in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I know they're having one again this year in Columbia City. And I know there's Baja Con, which is in the Port Huron, Michigan area, but on the Canadian side. But I forget what the name of the town is on the Canadian side. And I don't know where else, anything else. I know there was one earlier this year in Arizona, in Phoenix, in February, I think. So,
yes, I vaguely remember hearing about that. I forget if it was American Atheists or one of the free thinker groups or something. I can't recall.
Yeah.
But there's been talk. In fact, so TLDR, the reason I started on YouTube is because of Forrest after a fashion. I found out, from Forrest, I learned about the atheist community of Austin, watched their content. Matt Dillahunty quit. They were short on hosts, so they put out a call for hosts. So I said, hey, I have the equipment and I think I've got the presence that I can, help. And they're like, oh, well, atheist experience is like, the big time. We start on the little shows, whatever. I'm like, that fine. I just want to help. And so I went through the whole process, and then they were like, well, everything sounds good, but how can we tell what you're like on camera? So I'm like, okay, I'll produce a couple videos so you can see what I'm like on camera. And that's what started my channel. So while I was talking to them, they were very interested because the Comic Con that's coming up, it's produced by a nonprofit that I put together with some friends called Beyond the Rainbow Productions, which is about, it's geared towards active inclusion of LGBT people, but it's based on secular humanist ideals. And so when they found that out, they were like, we've been thinking about having like an ACA convention in every state, like traveling around. And, with the connection to you in Watertown, that might be the place to do it in New York. So there was talk briefly about holding an atheist convention in Watertown itself.
Hmm.
But then the
Alright, I gotta
whole
look up on the
ACA thing
map.
fell through, so who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Watertown, New York. All right. Wow, that is on the north end of the Adirondacks. Oof. That's way up there.
Yeah.
So I go to the other side. I go to Lake George side of New York area.
Ah, it's a popular spot.
On the opposite
I've
side
quite a
of the
few friends who go
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I like the
my
middle of the mountains myself. Old Forge and Krogan and Belfort and all that stuff.
yeah. Yeah, I've hiked a lot of the areas that, you know, used to be the Vanderbilts property. I guess you could say. I can't remember.
Oh,
Lake
yeah. I heard they
Lake
built a
Layla
resort
or
up there or
something like
something.
that.
Yeah.
Just beautiful area. Just beautiful, beautiful area. I don't remember the names of them. Let's see. And my sister during COVID became a 46er. She did
Oh, cool.
in summer of 2020. She lives in Manhattan, and she became a 46er while COVID was going on.
That's very neat.
So
That's a thing that I've often considered, but I've just never had that because like the biggest mountain in New York is called Mount Marcy. It's actually on the logo for the
mhm.
Comic-Con, though no one seems to have noticed yet. It's literally a drawing of Mount Marcy. But um because of the way the roads are and whatnot, it's like a 3-day hike. Like the mountain itself
Yeah.
will only take you a day, but you have to go a day out to the mountain and then a day back from the mountain.
Yeah. She did that, and actually on her way to the cabin after getting back, she popped a tire on her car,
Oof.
and yeah, had it towed down to Albany because that's the nearest BMW dealer. And I think that's where she was doing it. And then I flew into Albany and I picked up the car there. So she moved back to Manhattan after she was done. So yeah. And I'm an avid backpacker, but I've done the Appalachian Trail in sections.
Ah, that's
So
another thing. I had a friend in high school who told me about that back in Boy Scouts and such. It was always his dream to hike
mhm.
the whole trail, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool," but I have not had the time. That's definitely like a multiple months kind of thing. But that's the logo, and it's Mount Marcy up on the top there.
Oh. You know, if you didn't tell me that was Mount Marcy, I would think that was Franconia.
I've never heard of that one.
I have the power, I have the technology. I will build it bigger, faster, stronger than it was before.
Yeah. I see a Nitty has put in an appearance.
Nitty!
And no BS, no radioactive Dawkins. Fortunately, I've avoided both Dawkinses thus far.
Franconia Ridge. See if I can find some images. Hopefully I don't get copyright stuff.
I haven't seen a copyright happen.
Oh, this is
from
a
images
section
yet.
in New Hampshire. Yeah, it can happen. It can definitely happen. So let me see if I can find it from. Maybe I should just use one of my pictures. Oh, there we go. That's a good one. Open image, new tab. Oh, come on.
It doesn't wanna.
I know.
I blame the demons.
Yeah, this is good. It's the demons.
Mhm.
Definitely demons.
There have been so many technological issues lately. It's just unreal.
There we go. That's a pretty good. The angle I'll have to look at for the picture, but I'm going to share this tab. Hit this. Actually, I'm going to hit this.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I don't know. That is probably about a 2-day hike from where you get to the ridgeline, where you start going uphill for the ridgeline. There's a pond called Jimmy's Fishing Hole or something like that,
Oh,
close
nice.
to one of the AMC huts. And my guess is that's where this is at. Well, no, you know
I
what?
thought you were
That's
going to
not-
say they named it after you.
This is a one less than a one. This is about a 1-day hike from the top of it. But it's easy to get there because there's like a state camping area and stuff like that. There's a whole network of other stuff in the area as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
it kind of reminds me of the lake by Katahdin at the northern end of the Appalachian Trail. There's a big old pond
Yeah.
like that, and then the mountain just kind of loops around one end. It's so pretty.
It is. It is kind of the postcard welcome wagon for the northbounders when they get there in the fall. So, yeah, that's
Yeah. I
see
see
if I can
Titan
find it.
Uranus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right?
Titan has the best name. It's the most fun to say because you can just say Titan Uranus on a fucking live stream. It's amazing.
Here, let's get this one here. Share this one. There you go.
Ah.
That's a good view of it too.
Yeah. I love the people grump about how the Appalachians. I'm trying to think of the name of the whole chain, even though we were just talking about the trail. The Appalachians are like the tiny mountains.
Oh yeah.
The Rockies are impressive. They're fresh, they're young, etc. But aside from the few very highest peaks, from base to tip, they're not actually that much bigger than the Adirondacks. Like when your mountain starts at 8,000 feet, that's just the average ground level. It's not that hard to hit 10,000 feet. We have 2,000 foot high mountains too, and ours have trees.
I've done some California hiking, and I've done. I haven't done anything in the center of the country. But I tell you what, if you're doing Midwestern hills, you might not be doing much more than 400 feet elevation, but there's no ridge line, which means you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. And that's kind of the way the Appalachian Trail is, but it is on a larger scale, but there's ridge lines. So the butt kickers, in my opinion, are some of these Midwestern small trails. They don't seem like much when you're looking at it on paper, but when you do it, man, it kicks your tush.
Oh yeah,
I did
altitude changes
a,
too, up
a trail
lot more
called
energy.
Knobstone Trail in southern Indiana. That was what I practiced on. It's nicknamed the Little AT. It's only like 50 miles long. And I hiked it twice, getting in preparation for going on the hikes out east. And after I got done, about a week and a half after I got done hiking the trail, I went back to it just to see if it was still a butt kicker. And you wouldn't believe this. Yeah, I could hike more miles than I did the time before, but I was so stinking sore the next morning. in full on Appalachian Trail hiker fitness. Like my last day on the Appalachian Trail, I basically did 45 miles. No problem.
That's pretty impressive.
Right. So I basically got up in the morning and I'd hiked all day. I'd already gotten like 25 miles in by lunch, and I hung out at the top of Blood Mountain for like 2 hours. Felt like a celebrity. You know, there's like what felt like 35 people going up. There were probably close to 100 people on the top of the mountain. And then I saw half a dozen people going down. And you know, got in. It started raining in the middle of the night. I cowboy camped. That it started raining, so I hoofed it to the next shelter. And that put me only about 5 miles away from Springer Mountain. So I rolled into Springer Mountain about 9 in the morning. And you know, hung out and pretended to be a celebrity for the day, for most of the day, and then got a ride home. So, you know,
Yeah.
so I was in tip top shape and only about 12 days away removed from the trail. So I was so sore that morning. I slept in. I was like, man, I am sore. I'm going to sleep some more. So it is a butt kicker to not have the ridge lines, because even on your simplest day on the trail, you don't have much, you know, of an up down. You're walking through fields, and even though there are foothills, it's nothing like the Midwest. I don't understand it. It should be easy, but it's not.
Yeah.
Titan. Oh, that's funny. Oh my goodness. What a fun bunch you are. That's funny. So
Only the best for our exclusive live chat.
yeah. So are you in the New York area? You're in the Syracuse area?
Kind of sort of near Syracuse.
Okay.
I live up on the edge of Lake Ontario.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never really done anything in that area. Everything's always been New York City, and then what you go through kind of a corner close to West Point, Poughkeepsie to Delaware Water Gap. Not what Delaware Water Gap. Mount Vernon. Poughkeepsie to Mount Vernon. You just kind of go across just a touch of New York. I mean, it's so little of New York when you think of how big New York is. Feels like you're only in New York for like 2 or 3 days, maybe 4, if you're really huffing. Could be less. It just doesn't seem like you're in there that much.
Yeah. I mean, from that perspective, it's may as well be a New England state.
Yeah. Didn't Vermont used to be New York? And all of that area, and even some of Vermont was all of Massachusetts originally.
Massachusetts tried to claim everything for a little while, which is why New England is the way it is. Vermont happened because both New York and New Hampshire claimed that territory, and Vermont said, to hell with both of you. We're going to go do our own thing. In fact, they didn't even join the Union until the Constitution came along. They didn't even want to be part of the Articles of Confederation.
Huh. Yeah, I've drank and slept since that day in history class. I just remember vaguely.
It was briefly, like many people, I go through periods of hyperfixation, and one of my brief hyperfixations was all the parts of the United States that once were independent countries. Now, there's some that are obvious, like Hawaii. It was a kingdom before we stole it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vermont was an independent nation for a few years.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. I learn something every day.
Yeah.
I do know, I am familiar with the area around Toledo, Ohio, that there was a strip of land that if you look at the here, let's put it up. I have the power. I have the technology.
Yeah. Little area near the Maumee River.
A little area near the Maumee River, and it was it was let's go to maps. So if you look at this area right here, this is Indiana right here.
Okay.
This is Michigan. This is Ohio. So notice that these lines are different. That this area right here was hotly contested. Whether or not this area right here is supposed to be Michigan or Ohio. So basically from this area right here, all was there was actual war declared between the two states, from what I understand.
For like a 10-mile strip of land.
Yeah, for like a 10-mile strip of land. Yeah. And I think there's another story of Kentucky and this area right here is this little Missouri thing that goes in here, and there's a story about some variation of, I don't think there was war declared, but there was there might have been blood loss or something like that over the land.
That was back in the period when they were having fist fights in the Senate because tensions were so heated about slave states versus free states. And when who the hell was that Secretary of State? All I'm coming up with is Andrew Dice Clay, and that ain't it. My poor brain. But yeah, it was the Missouri Compromise thing. Like, he's the one who set the line, but they weren't quite happy with the line, so they added the little comma. It just, crazy shit.
Yeah.
And now they're all mad because the river's shifted, so now they have little inserts on each other's sides of the river.
There's an area, I know there's a casino in Indiana or something like that that's one of those spots. Like it's able to get away with some weird blue line law from Indiana about you can have a casino, but it has to be on a waterway or something like that.
Yeah, there's a few of those.
I don't remember.
A couple of the states along the Mississippi had a rule that riverboat casinos were a thing, but a lot of the old riverboats didn't work so good, so they just permanently moored them. But since they were still in the water, they were still okay.
Yeah, that's how they get away with it on Lake Michigan too. But yeah, I think they've relaxed those in the last 20 years.
Yeah, New York's done that a lot too. We got tired of having to drive to Atlantic City to gamble.
Oh yeah, I never been there. Been to Vegas, been to Biloxi, Mississippi, and been to some of the casinos around here, which do have some variation of a waterway adjacent that can be issued as a proper to the law, but they don't build them like a boat and dock and undock like Indiana had to.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just part of the casino has to be over a waterway, and that counts.
Sure.
Yeah.
I always thought it would be cool to take a cruise down the river or something and just gamble while you're like you're playing dice, and then there's a sway in the water, and the dice flip over, and cruel fate or something.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Sure it was. SA wants me to say French Lick.
Fair enough.
I've never been there. I've heard French stories about French Lick actually has ties to Al Capone or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. They've been smugglers as long as they've been around.
Yeah. that there's some sort of story that there was there's a lot of lore about Capone. Yeah, that he had something going down. There's a casino, and it doesn't look like it's on a waterway. Casino. Huh. Well, that's enough of that. So, Amber, I appreciate you coming on. I hope to see more of your stuffs.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And so you've got a show on ACA. What time's that show
No,
on?
I actually don't. That fell through.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was supposed to make my debut on Secular Sexuality because of the nonprofit. They felt like that would be the best fit, and I was scheduled for March 16th, and then on March 12th they canceled the show. Like, they're just not doing the series at all anymore. I'm like, wow, they really didn't want to have me on.
Jeez.
But no, they were putting it on hiatus anyway because the ratings were getting lower and lower, and they didn't know why. So they want to retool the show, and they're hoping to relaunch it this fall. Who knows? But turnabout's fair play. I have the host of that show, Christy Powell, coming on my show in a couple of weeks. So,
I would say that this kind of thing's always in the Lord's hands.
Something like that. I trust the Lorax more, but
the Lorax. Yeah. I trust the French lick.
Yeah, you can always trust the French to lick things.
That reminds me of a trail story. I was in the I was hiking Virginia, and normally when you've been hiking for a while, you can tell somebody's been out there, usually by the size of their beard or the scruffiness of their beard.
Yep, that
because it does not everybody has a nice long beard after this. Sometimes it's the scruffiness. And came across the guy that was cleanly shaven, and I was like, well, you must be new on the trail. He's like, no, I've been on for a couple of months. He's like, but at first I just didn't like the way it was growing in. I just didn't like the way it felt and everything. So I went down to a goatee, and then my trail name changed from whatever it was to Frenchie. I was like, well, why is that? And he's like, well, I guess somebody knew some sort of lore about Frenchmen in the prison system would grow goatees so their mouths look more like a vagina.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And so he'd been clean shaven ever since, trying to lose the trail name Frenchie.
Oh, yeah. It may be too late, and also
yeah.
like
it was too late. His buddy was like, he's like, it's not going anywhere. Yeah. So have I got stories to tell you? I met a guy. I have a picture of a guy. We're at the Harper's Ferry ATC office, and he's sitting there. We're both making our visit and doing our sign-ins and filling out our Polaroid snaps information and stuff like that. This is before it was linked to the internet. They were still old school on it. And we're standing there, and I get somebody to take a picture of us, with this, I don't know, 1/18th scale or something. I don't remember what it was, but a model scale of the AT. And we're sitting there. I get the thing. It's like, well, what's your trail name? He's like, Pisses in Wind.
Oh yeah, that
old joke. It's like, there's pretty much only one way to get that. He's like, yeah, it happened. Pisses and wind.
I see. I thought it was in reference to the old Native American joke.
Oh yes, yeah, it could be. Yeah, you know what? That's kind of how a lot of people get their trail name.
Everyone has the
If
same
given
name.
the
I don't know
opportunity,
why.
my trail name would be Pee Wee, and that's because my first day on the trail, I was hiking. I did a flip flop. I intended to do a flip flop starting in Bennington, Vermont.
Hmm.
And a couple of overnight hikers from the AMC club, they were staying at the shelter, and I hiked in a kilt. I
As you should.
made, my mom and I made this, made this basically out of swim. Made this kilt that its pattern was basically meant to be crotchless cargo shorts. I wanted the practicality and everything that cargo shorts would have,
Hell yeah.
but I essentially wanted it to be, crotchless.
Yeah, because who
So
needs
that's how
chafing?
we kind of did it.
If you can have
Yeah.
no chafing plus pockets, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? So that's what we did. I had real pockets and I had a map pocket on a skirt, essentially. And so I get into camp and, we're just talking, having a good time. And it was one of those cold, misty nights, evenings. And they're like, well, how do you like it? And it's like, it's great. I was talking about all the advantages that I expected to get from it. But I was like, on a night like this, it's a little bit of a weenie shrinker.
Oh no.
And if they had been long distance hikers instead of just overnighters, my trail name would be Pee Wee. True story. So there you go. And that's kind of it. It's very much like, why do you ask two dogs fucking?
Uh-huh.
It's if you let your trail name be naturally given, then you will get some variation of pisses and wind. I remember meeting a guy. In New Hampshire. He was doing some pretty good, but we were both a little wounded with knee injuries, and his trail name was Squirrel Meat.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, we pulled into camp, and we're literally there at the picnic bench, and the squirrel literally runs over, bitches us out, runs over and bites my heel, and then runs off and up a tree. And he got the trail name Squirrel Meat as being bit by a squirrel. Like
that was not what I was expecting. I thought he'd be like, oh, this squirrel has volunteered to become dinner. Because, squirrel, there's not much meat on a squirrel, but the unique property of squirrel meat is that it will take on the flavor of whatever you cook it with. If you can get enough of it to make a meal out of, you can make some pretty fantastic stuff.
Right.
But now I see that it was a reference to him being the meat for the squirrel.
Right. Exactly. I met another guy, one of my first meetings. He had thru hiked the trail in the early 90s. And he told a story about his trail name. It was during a time where a lot of people in the 90s were just kind of picking a name that was, Hobbit related.
Oh, sure.
And he said, I'm hiking with, there were a couple lesbians that were out hiking, and, they were, I don't remember what name but they had picked some variation of Disney characters or something like that. And he's like, isn't this great? Like, you can kind of come out here, you can be your alter ego, and you can just pick any name like Cinderella and go hiking. And for the next week, they called him Cinderella. That became his trail name. And he didn't really like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so about a week later, when they were after they had called him Cinderella for about a week, he was hiking, he crested a hill, and he walks right into the middle of 3 cubs. And a mama bear and a yearling is roughly 500 feet away, takes one look at him, and all kind of converge not far from him. They kind of all run. He said he felt bear fur against his legs running. And so these 3 cubs, a yearling, and a mama bear all kind of converge, but rush past him and converge and then move on. And he said somebody else witnessed it, and his name after that was 5 Bears.
That's pretty cool.
So saved, literally 5 bears saved my buddy.
Yeah.
So squirrel is delicious on pizza. I can't say that. I think I've had squirrel stew, but I'm not 100% positive.
I have never tried it on pizza, but I suddenly have an urge.
Yeah, I've had turtle stew, I think. I don't remember it. I just remember it smelling a touch fishy. Maybe not fishy. It smelled like worms, if I remember correctly. It smelled a little bit like worms. Maybe not fishy isn't the word. And then I've had alligator.
Yeah, gator's not bad.
Yeah, alligator was a little chewy, but other than that, it was good.
Yeah, it's hard to cook it well. I've seen people have some success with deep frying it, but when you do that, then it's basically chicken wings. Like you can't tell the flavor difference.
I think I've had them made kind of like Kentucky Fried Chicken and Popeyes makes popcorn chicken.
Yeah.
I've had an alligator that was fried, and it was kind of like popcorn chicken that way. But no, I had it more like a mix of like Louisiana sauce on it, and it was good, but it was a little chewy. So.
I think our ancestors probably bred the animals that we normally use for food also for the ease of consumption. Like if you go back 10,000 years to the wild oxen and aurochs and shit, they'd probably be considerably chewier than modern steaks. I'm just speculating because the ancient aurochs is extinct. Unless we find some DNA trapped in amber, we'll never freaking know, but it's my suspicion.
Yeah. I've had there was a restaurant not far from here that did had a chef that would bring in some different meats. Bring in regularly some sort of venison and elk on special. I would try it. Same with the alligator. Same with ostrich. I think you had ostrich on the menu one time.
Yeah, I managed to get ostrich once. Actually, right here in town, there was a restaurant that opened up that called itself King Arthur's, and they wanted to be all medieval and whatnot. And I'm not sure how ostrich fit in there, but they served ostrich, and it was fucking magical. It tastes like beef, but it's healthy like chicken. I'm like, why is this not a thing in the U.S.? Well, there are a couple of ostrich farms, but it just hasn't really caught on.
Oh, what's the cost effectiveness of raising a big bird versus 1,000 small birds?
Well, I mean, at the moment, ostrich meat goes for a pretty penny because it's so rare. But if you mass produce them, then it's hard to say.
Yeah, what's the time it takes to get a mature to market ostrich?
I'd imagine a year. I grew up on a farm. We didn't have ostriches, but we did have emu, and they reached adult height in about a year. 2 years to be like fully mature, but they only grew like another inch or two. Of course, an emu isn't quite an ostrich, but they're so closely related. I can't see there being that much difference.
Wow. All right. Only part of the gator worth eating is the tail. Interesting.
It's good to remember.
Gator tail.
Yeah, I used to have a goal. When I was little, I started getting my hands on weird foods like shark, and there was a restaurant in the next town over that served alligator, and of course they had to deep fry it because they had the tough meat, you know. And I was like, I'm gonna make it. We didn't have the term bucket list at the time; the movie hadn't come out yet, but a bucket
Mhm.
list thing to eat all the animals at least once, like try every single animal. And then when I got a little older, I realized how many fucking animals there are. I'm like, just Darwin's finches alone, there's, over a dozen different species of bird. I'm like, I need to condense this down.
Oh my. That's funny. I also had a term for it prior to the bucket list coming out. I always called it the one of these days I'm gonna. And then the idiots flew planes into buildings in September of 2001.
Mhm.
And then I called it seeking life with vigor.
Hmm.
And I don't remember when bucket list came out.
Yeah. I'm
Bucket list came out
kind of
IMDb in
surprised that
2007.
there's still so much aggressive religion in the world after September 11th, at least in the United States, because like here's a clear sign of the danger of religion. Like even if you and your church, you're all chill people and you're not zealots and shit, the fact that y'all keep reinforcing this means there's a higher probability somebody's going to be a zealot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know. I wish, uh, how come you're not a Christian?
It just never made sense to me. Like I mentioned at the start, I never really got good answers to any of my questions. And as I got older, and
Yeah.
one of my best friends was Catholic, and he was constantly telling me how wonderful the church is. And I'm like, coming from Boy Scouts, I had already heard about the Catholic priests. But that
Oh boy.
notwithstanding, he was like, yeah, all the ritual and formality makes it like really holy, and it's like almost an occult kind of thing. I'm like, do you suppose that might be on purpose? Like, I don't know. Never mind. But like the stories are such obvious bullshit, like just starting with Eden. You've got this, they keep telling you how God is omnipotent and omniscient and all this crap. And then you start reading through the Garden of Eden, and God is physically there out for a stroll, and
Yeah.
Adam hides in a fucking bush and God can't find him. And I'm like, how do you figure this fucker's omniscient? What's going on? They
That's
tell you he's the only
yeah.
God, but right in his own goddamn commandments, the commandments that he wrote with his own finger on the fucking stone tablets, you will have no other gods before me. That's commandment 1. It's the most important. And in that commandment, God himself concedes there are other gods. And I've had people try to
Right.
explain it away and say, oh, well, he meant idols. Bitch, this is God. If he meant
Yeah.
idols, he would have said idols.
Yeah, I find it curious that Jesus is accused of being in cahoots with Beelzebub. And why would no matter what the age of this guy is, why all of a sudden would it be in cahoots with Beelzebub? That makes no sense to me. The most amazing person of all time. We can't tell if he's with the good guy or the bad guy, the old
I
guy
don't
or the new
know.
guy.
Even that, I wasn't all that impressed. Granted, when I was little, David Copperfield was putting on television specials, like making the Statue of Liberty disappear and shit. So when they're telling me like,
Mhm.
oh, he turned water into wine, I was not impressed. I was like, yeah, David Copperfield's
Yeah.
got better tricks than that shit. But
Yeah.
then, like, there's the
He made an
crucifixion.
RV disappear that he was walking through while he made it disappear, if I remember correctly.
I have
on
not
one of those
seen
specials.
that.
If
I
I
may
remember
have to look
correctly, he's
that
got
up.
this RV. Yeah. I don't remember. I want to say he's got this Winnebago type of RV or something like that. I don't know. It kind of looked maybe more like a bus RV. I hope you find it.
Yeah, I may if I think of it later. It'll probably pop back into my head in like 6 days. It'll just be like, oh hey. That's just how my brain works.
They did a disappearing plane, a train, RV disappearing.
Well, you got to get an
Vanished
automobile to complete the set.
He disappeared his jet. Nope, I don't see it. Yeah, I just remember an illusionist explaining how, as much as people are amazed, he's like, it's actually a simple concept. He's like, when you're playing ball with a dog, you take and you throw the ball into the corner, and the dog chases it down and kind of plays the angle and catches it in his mouth.
If he's a smart dog.
And he's like, you do that 2 or 3 times in a row, and then one time you don't throw it. The dog still goes and is waiting for it to bounce off of wherever he assumes you threw it. He's like, that's all an illusionist does. Is tricks you into thinking this is where you should look and what your reaction should be, and for you to receive the information, just like that ball. And once that was explained to me, I was like, well, don't look where they're trying to send you to look.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the same thing with the Holy Bible. I feel like it trains you to look over here, and then it's vanished.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison, because, as much as the religious hate the idea of evolution, religion has been evolving. Like, modern Christianity doesn't believe hardly any of the things ancient Christianity did. Augustine went through, he was a master of rhetorical studies. He was like a PhD level philosopher in the 3rd century. He rewrote whole chunks of the Bible and added in what he knew about rhetoric. That's why there's such an emphasis on the guilt trip. Jesus died for you. Originally it was Jesus died and returned from the dead. Holy crap. Now it's he died for you and also returned from the dead. It's changed the angle a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so. It's now, keep in mind, I was pretty sheltered from most of the stuff but I did get some of the inoculation, I think, from, going to a Baptist school in my first memories. And I went to a Lutheran school, and I went to, Nitty's got a question here. Nitty's got a question for you, Amber. Says, don't you be taking away my special feels.
Now listen here, Nitty.
Nit-
I will do what I want. Come on this stream and stop me.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Nitty, we got to do a dance party again soon. That was cool.
Gotta go to bed. SA, you have a good night. Thank you for all your support. I'm reluctant to pin the guest. That's why I wanted to send it to you on a DM, because there's there's a guy, if you haven't encountered him yet, named Wes.
Wes Curry the
And
second.
he
Yep,
yes.
he's been around.
Oh, you've heard of him?
Yeah, I actually had him on my stream. I opened up the room, he came on, and yeah, when he's hit or miss. Sometimes he's more lucid than others. The dude is actually a really good musician. I don't know if you've ever gone to his channel, but he's got like videos of him playing his own original compositions, and they're good. If he, but then the part that you're familiar with, he does that a lot too, and so he's hard to have around.
I'm like, I already feel like I'm crazy enough. Like when he starts, I learned the proper definition.
It's a nitty.
Nitty.
Hey, I'm not in my usual setup, but I'll hang with y'all.
I see that.
It happens.
No Lego. Legoland.
Curses.
No, I'm just on the couch playing Marvel Snap, relaxing.
Sweet. Yeah, I've had to phone it in from time to time too. Like the last time somebody ambushed me for a random stream, I had to my computer was rendering a video, and I was like transloading documents to the other computer, and it was doing like 5 other things. And I'm like, I can't use my computer right now; it's tied up, so I had to use my phone.
That's funny.
Yeah, it happens.
So today, Sean McDowell actually put one of my chat messages on stream, and I was like, "Whoa!"
What?
Yeah.
What is this sorcery?
He was on with Alan Parr, and they were talking about the prosperity gospel, and I'm like, I wish believers and non-believers would not call it that, because it's not actually what you're objecting to.
Well, we can't call it the scam gospel, because the original flavor gospel is also a scam.
Right. And I'm like, it's prosperity theology, y'all. Fix it. Then you're more precise, and you're not, because some people who have prosperity theology could still accept whatever the gospel is, right? So you got to leave open your possibilities. And they agreed with me. That was fun.
Related, I was watching Dapper Dinosaur earlier tonight, and he was doing his Kent with Bent series. It's up to episode 111 now. That's how much freaking Kent Hovind there is to go over. But in that particular episode, Kent Hovind happened to say something like, you can't trust these televangelist preachers who want you to send seed money for prosperity or whatever. He's like, you can't believe what these crazy preachers will say on TV. And I'm like, Kent, you're on TV, right? Like the irony is just completely, there it goes,
Yeah. That's good stuff, man. What else did I catch live that was amusing today? I listened through your response to Rebecca. It was pretty hilarious.
Oh yeah.
She's a bundle of fun.
Noticed you yet?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can't imagine it'll be much longer because there's so many people that seem to know both of us.
Right. Yeah, the overlap is real. I guess that's the other thing, is Rebecca appeared in that Sean McDowell live chat and was like, this conversation hurts. I'm like, why? What's going on?
Did
you see my messages in you were going over with Eric of Skeptics and Scoundrels, that other Bread of Life video.
Yeah.
And I know a lot about her, man. Like, we've had email correspondence. I've been on her show a couple times. And she's a young earth creationist, open theist. Figure that out.
Young earth creationist, open theist.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to need to get some sleep.
I mean, I don't watch her that often, but I see an awful lot of rebuttal videos. and critique videos.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, so she believes, so when you are, just keep that in mind when you review her content for future, right? Because the escape hatches she can open for Yahweh are innumerable, because it's like, well, God didn't know the thing, so it's fine, or God didn't predestine that, so it's fine. Like, her theism is so open, it's like
It has evolved like an
it's as
Eevee
open
to
as
the
a
next
young
stage.
Melania. It'll take in whatever.
Wow. Shots fired.
Yeah. I mean, when you find yourself on a live stream trying to convince yourself and your audience that murdering babies for fun is morally justified, you really have to
Well,
question your theology.
it's not fun. It's just necessary.
Yeah.
It's what God wants. So maybe, I guess it's
That
kind of
yeah, it's
fun,
definitionally necessary in that same tautology type way.
right?
Hey, Hill Hugger, good to see you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Are you streaming to both channels or just Tux?
No, just here. But
Oh,
I did put a post over on mine that we were
nice.
doing a bonus stream over here.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think I could have sent you instructions on how to do a simul stream.
That's a nifty feature. I'm glad that
Yeah.
it's like out there, because it makes so many things so much easier.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Though
StreamYard just added it like a month ago, the ability for guests to stream to their channels, and I keep telling Mark, because Mark likes to, whenever he's involved in a thing, he likes to put it up on his channel a couple of days later. I'm like, you can just stream to your channel live, then we can have like all the comments, but because I love fan interaction. I love it when people have insightful stuff to say. I'm terrible at monitoring my comments section, but I love it when they're there.
yeah, if he could, like, let's say, like, you don't get the link or permissions to be replaying the stream that you're joining or whatever. One way to get around that is to fire up something like OBS and make the display the window of the stream that you're on, and then broadcast that to your channel. And you'll also have control of your own live chat through OBS, or like having YouTube in another tab that you're not broadcasting. So I don't know if Mark uses that at all, but there you go. So if you ever want to bomb a theist hangout and you won't get permission to restream it immediately, you could just fire up OBS, start a virtual camera, and go bananas.
Yeah. It's a possibility, although I have yet to find a theist hangout I'd actually want to hang out in, because it seems like all the places that Mark goes, there's that Redefine Living dude, there's Praise I Am, there's Donnie from SFT. I'm like, it reminds me of like the old greaser gangs, they're like always together because they're
was just
so
about to
afraid of
call 'em
being caught
that.
apart. Yeah.
They're like the algorithmic theist gang. Like they're just they're in a bucket of interconnected channels that now YouTube has, like, them all in this, like, incestuous relationship with each other, where they just
What if they're
are
trying to recreate the Trinity, but for real?
making out and
Like
sharing their bad ideas
they're
all at once.
individuals, but they're the same thing. But they're individuals, but they're the same thing.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, I've been trying to keep my YouTube, like, suggestions, like, totally confused. So, like, I'm subscribed to, like, these, like, really weird like prophet type channels, like Kay Nash. She's just like, what is even happening? Like, it's great. And then I got like Kingdom Purpose TV, which is like predominantly African American, like Baptist preaching.
Okay.
And then there's Proverbs guy who has like hangouts and stuff with all kinds of different Christians, and their conversations get pretty weird, but also their conversations are incredibly ill-informed because they're like, witchcraft is Satanism. I'm just like, oh fuck. Nope. Maybe there's some overlaps in like Western people who have co-opted witchcraft stuff, like symbology and practice, and then
So
attribute it to Satan, but and historically that's just so wrong.
yeah, that whole thing, it's partly it's theists going out of their way to deliberately misunderstand, particularly bearing in mind that passage from King James, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." But
Right.
also, it's kind of Crowley's fault because in the early 20th century, some Alexander Gardner published that book about the hidden witches of Western Europe, the ones who have been underground for generations since the Christians took over, trying to preserve the old ways. And he made up more than half of the details. And then once Americans got their hands on that book, there were like cult groups that started to try to create a kind of neo-paganism here in the United States. Crowley was part of that group, but he split with the group and said, no, I'm going to do my own thing. And his own thing, he took many of the practices and traditions from the Gardnerian tradition and decided to make modern Satanism. So, and
Yay.
we're not talking Anton LaVey's Satanism, which is, the power comes from within. You can make a difference in the world because you have control over your life. That kind of Satanism. We're talking blood rituals in circles. We're going to try to summon a demon kind of Satanism.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So that the theistic idea that witchcraft and Satanism are closely related isn't actually entirely unfounded. However, I have yet to meet a theist who knows any of that shit I just said. They're
Right.
just
Yeah.
parroting what other people have said.
Like I said, it's like a much more modern adaptation of both ideas that get synthesized mostly in America, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Or
I don't even.
I
I don't
guess
even.
people with access to the internet and generally the West who have the freedom to be like, look at me, I'm like the crazy gothic goofy Americans.
Yeah, everybody needs a gimmick, I guess. I haven't
Um,
quite figured out my gimmick yet, but details. I just keep thinking about Kiss, how their whole thing was knights in service to Satan. And it just, like, none of their music is remotely satanic, but it just, oh, we're gonna piss off our parents,
yeah.
and it worked for that generation.
I guess like yeah, I don't know. So tomorrow in the evening, I'm gonna be by myself. My family's going to their in-laws. I want to do a show on this video I caught from this channel called Exploring Reality. Sometimes he shows up on like Testifies stuff and whatnot. And he did this thing about like how like I'm gonna say like a billion times because I'm tired. He did this video on why falsifiability is not good, or it's like not a good like it shouldn't be like the end all be all of like science, and even more so with Christianity.
I mean, I think finding any falsifiability in Christianity would be helpful, but what do I know?
Well, yeah, well, this will be amusing. I'm gonna try and get some notes done on it tomorrow for timestamps and whatnot. But one of the things that I just am cooking in my head, right, is, well, hang on a minute. Like, if you have this hypothesis, Christianity is true, right? And you're like, well, we can't discount it if we find one area false. Okay, maybe another thing about Christianity is false. Okay, another thing about Christianity is likely not true. How many of those things does it take for you to just go, well, maybe this shit's not true? Right? If your
Literally.
central hypothesis keeps having defeaters, like maybe maybe you should abandon the conclusion, right? Or the bucket hypothesis.
Yeah, especially if it's one of those hypotheses that is based on all the points being true. Like science, when we
Well,
get something wrong, we go, "Oh, cool, we learned something new," and we update our models. That's not a problem.
right.
But
Yeah. And
something like Christianity, where it's supposed to be the revealed word of an actual all-knowing God, if any single bit of it is wrong, the whole thing is wrong, you know?
well, and that's where it's like there are some like I'm hoping to bring up the non-negotiables, right? Like where most Christians are just going to say, "Oh no, you can't, like if this part is false, then it's not Christianity anymore." What did you miss that boat? Like so and it just makes me mad that like or frustrated that apologists can make a video like that and be like, look, see, we're just like science. Everything is fine. Like we
Uh-huh.
can just adjust the theism to make it work. I'm like, but there's certain things you cannot do that with. Don't be dishonest. I'm gonna shake you.
Mhm. Yeah, there was I think it was Danny Faulkner from not Answers in Genesis, the other one, Genesis Apologetics, something like that.
Mhm.
And he got put through the ringer about the problem of old starlight from a young earth creationist perspective. And he went through model after model after model, iterating away, trying to find a solution. And finally, he just threw up his hands and went, "You know what? It was a fucking miracle." I mean, he didn't phrase it that way because he's a Christian. Ma'am,
Right.
this is a Christian server. But you get the idea. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess partial credit for admitting that it was just magic. That's the only way you can explain it.
Amusingly, right after that video ended for my like YouTube playback or whatever, um, YouTube auto played this like Christian cosmologist talking about interstellar travel, and it was actually a really
Hmm.
good talk because he didn't invoke like a bunch of God and blah 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 stuff. He actually talked about like, here's our current limitations of space travel. Oh yeah, space is real, the Earth is round, blah blah blah. And he's like, here's the amount of time it would take, and like he's just totally into like deep time is real, evolution probably happened,
Mhm.
and here's how we would actually try to get to a planet and what kind of objects we could take. And I was like, holy shit, this is actually really informative. And this guy's a believer, but he, would totally piss off most of the young earth creationists and like other people that we encounter, right? Like
Oh yeah, and that's another important point. Is like if Christianity is true, why can't the Christians all agree on what it means? But
right.
yeah, there are a lot of scientists who still manage to hang on to their faith. Um, they
I
they're
was cool.
they
I'm
tend
gonna
to
see
be
if I can
less
find it.
extreme, which is nice to see. But
Because he was like talking about like really awesome things like solar sails and like
mm,
uh, basically like I think the funnest thing I learned was uh, they can make like graphene. They're pretty sure they can make like a graphene like uh, solar photo sail that'll just keep going. Like it'll just go. But the problem is for it to like be efficient and actually move a thing, it can't be any bigger than like a pineapple.
well, details. Yeah, the proportion of the amount of sail you need based on the mass you're trying to move gets pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
But
but I thought that was really funny and just like, eh.
the
It's
good
might
news
not
is,
work.
though, the fuel is free. The bad news is, though, once you pass the heliopause of a given solar system, you're no longer getting enough energy from the star
Yeah.
if you're off course, you're dead. Like
Right. Yeah.
if you need to get to the next star system completely coasting and then turn around in order to slow down as you re-enter the system because you have no control yourself.
Oh, here it is. I'll send it to you in the chat. This is pretty cool.
Oh, Nitty has violated the dress code.
Yeah, thanks, Nitty.
Hey, you're lucky I'm wearing clothes at all. I mean,
Well, that's fair.
So yeah, that's the link. The guy's name is,
It came up in my feed. I skipped over it because the Royal Institution, I've reviewed a couple of their videos, but they're kind of stuffy. Like the last one I looked at was about they had a British physicist dude on talking about the double slit experiment and the observer effect. And he presented it in a really Dr. Quantum kind of way, like the electrons know that we're looking at them, kind of thing. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And he concludes the thing by saying, okay, so we unplugged the cameras and didn't let the electrons know if we were watching them. And when we turned away, they behaved like waves again. And if you can explain that, there's a Nobel Prize in it for you. And I'm like, a kindergartner can explain that, my dude. What are you fucking talking about? Okay, not a kindergartner. You have to, at least get to 5th grade to learn what an
just
electron
being
is.
like facetious. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, oh, it was so infuriating. I'm like, I just wanted to like call the dude right on the spot and be like, are you fucking serious that you don't understand this? You're presenting at the fucking Royal Institution and you don't understand the observer effect.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at their video titles now. I'm like, oh geez, there's some clickbait in here probably, but I feel like that talk I listened to was actually pretty informative. So that one hopefully won't fall into a woo category for you. Oh God, what a BS link.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy both speculative science about the potential for space travel and where we're at now. I think based on the technology we currently have, we could actually construct an interstellar vessel. It would have to be a generation ship, though, which means like hollowing out an asteroid, and the amount of work that would have to go into stabilizing the ecosystem to make it go would just be unreal. It'd take like the united effort of the entire planet to do it, but we could do it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, we have the resources, we have the technology. Let's get together and wreck shit. We got to do it.
Yeah.
But no, people are too greedy and myopic. And
well, I'm also thinking of the original Star Trek, right? Like just a decade or two after the first generation ships, or what do they call it, stasis ships, where they put you to sleep and you sleep for hundreds of years through the voyage, whatever. Shortly after that, they invent the warp drive. And so, those poor people who went out, on a 300-year journey to Alpha Centauri, if they'd waited a few more years, they could have been there in minutes, that kind of thing. So I feel like we're at that spot or we're just entering that spot right now. Like we could do it, but if we wait just a little bit longer, we might have a cool breakthrough,
Or if like we're visited by literal aliens.
I mean, they could just drop off the blueprints for, actual interstellar ships. That would be awfully neighborly.
But if they encounter the Americas first, like these whack nuts are just going to kill them. Like, or die trying.
Yeah, they'll start an interstellar war.
But they'll be like, these are from the devil.
Oh no. They're clearly demons. Did you see the horns on their spacesuits?
But by definition, demons are aliens.
I look like a jackass. Look at that. I I look like a jackass.
I love it.
Look at that.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But yeah, like demons and angels, they're by definition aliens. They're not from our planet or plane of existence, and they come in. They're clearly extraterrestrial.
Yeah, that's true.
If they're real, they might touch you or possess you. It's fine. You'll just be their meat Gundam, and it's a good time.
So, according to Irish lore, biblically speaking, angels and demons are the same species. The difference between them is really more of a political position.
Sure.
And
yeah.
it's based on the idea of the war in heaven back in ancient times when Lucifer and the other angels were like, God, you're stupid and your plan sucks. We can do better. And they tried to take over, but there were only a third of them. But it was a close fight because only a third of the angels stood on God's side, too. It was pretty evenly matched because the other third of the angels were neutral. They're like, we're not going to take a side. We don't know who's right. We don't know who's going to win. We're just going to hang out over here. So according to Irish legend, the demons were banished to hell. But the other angels who didn't fully support God couldn't stay in heaven any longer, but they weren't bad enough to deserve hell. So they got exiled to earth. But because they're angels, they can't like live on earth. So they live in the land of the Fae, which is like a parallel dimension that's connected to Earth. So they're kind of aliens, but also kind of Earthlings. It's a fascinating thing.
It's kind of like the Emerald Dream in World of Warcraft. It's like
a lot like that.
Yeah, it's like partly parallel to the other stuff that's happening on Azeroth, but not. Like you get sucked in and you're like, whoa, everything looks kind of the same. Whoa, there's crazy dragons in here.
Yeah, it's very much. And you can only like access it through certain points, like fairy mounds and such. And yeah, it's really
or
cool.
an ayahuasca trip. I mean, whatever.
But yeah, so the fairies are aliens too.
What happened to you this weekend? Oh, I went to the pub and someone slipped something in my drink and I saw the angels.
Yeah. Oh, there's like, I'm obviously, you know how the Irish like to tell stories. So there's all kinds of stories. There's variants where like not all angel sightings or demon sightings are actually a fairy just playing tricks on people, but a whole lot of them are. Leprechauns been I could believe it. There are so many legends. And unfortunately, I am not actually an Irish person. I'm descended from Irish people, but I'm an American. So I don't have all the Irish legends, and that makes me sad. A few hundred years ago, I might have been a storyteller. Travel from town to town. And to wind that back around to the discussions on the Appalachian Trail earlier, I find it rather fitting that people went through that phase of picking Lord of the Rings based names because, at least for me, when I go on a long hike, it reminds me of the first part of the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit, where they set out on that long journey and all the adventure is still ahead and they're just hiking through the nature and it's awesome and the mountains are off in the distance. It really syncs up for me. Take off that hat. I will have you know, I'm half Irish. I'm look at me. I am clearly descended from potatoes.
I am English. 2 families of English. But
I used to write for a newspaper. Several newspapers, come to think of it. Details though.
Extra, read all about it.
So now you guys got me into looking up Polish legends because I'm half Polish.
Uh-huh.
Here's a fun one. The Sleeping Knights. This Polish legend revolves around knights and an angel. The legend of the Sleeping Knights. According to this tale, there's a secluded cave in Mount Gaiawant in the Tatra Mountains, where a band of armor-clad knights rests in eternal sleep, waiting for a time when Poland will be in need of their services. Well, they kind of screwed up the Holocaust.
Yeah, they missed their cue.
The knights are guarded by an angel who is always ready to inform them whether the time has arrived. And there is a cave over there, enormous and dark. Only cressets flicker along the walls. These knights are asleep, and every 10 years, the oldest of them raises his head and asks the angel that watches over them, "Is it time?" And all the knights raise their iron helmeted heads, but the angel replies, "No, sleep." So they keep sleeping. Great.
And that sounds like a good note to go to bed on.
Right? No.
Who amongst us is tired? Ember, is it your bedtime yet?
Oh, it's past my bedtime.
Past your bedtime?
I'm
There's a
I'm
talking
terrible
with
at
the
my
devil
job.
one. Tux, this one's up your alley, probably.
Oh, do tell.
All right. Hold on. Let's see what this is about. Okay. It's a best known devil in Polish legend. It's the one that signed a pact with the 16th century nobleman Sir Twardowski. According to the contract, the devil provided the nobleman with a great wisdom and magical powers in exchange for, as you might expect, his soul. However, a key stipulation stated that Twardowski's soul could only be collected in Rome.
No.
That allowed the cunning nobleman to exercise his special powers without ever having to pay the price, as long as he avoided the eternal city. However, on one day, the devil tricked Twardowski into visiting an inn called none other than Rome. That was when the party ended for Sir Twardowski. A confrontation with the devil ensued, and as a result, the nobleman became stranded on the moon forever.
Well, that's just rude. I wonder if one of our
Wow.
grubs will find him someday.
I like saying that name, Twardowski. It's somewhere in my blood. I can just
When in Rome.
flows right off my tongue.
Yeah.
Twardowski.
Is that where the statement when in Rome comes from? Do as the Romans do? Could that have any association?
No, I think that's older than that 16th century thing. But hey.
Wow, that's things to ponder. Useless information.
Well, I mean, if it's entertaining, it has a use.
Yeah.
But yeah, I probably should scoot.
The
Let's get as sleepy as my
quote of the
cat.
week, you kind of mentioned deep drinks, or there was a reference that reminded me of it. And I think the quote of the week that I heard is the conversation. I don't remember who David was talking to, but he said some variation of, you mean to tell me they could part the Red Sea, but they couldn't unhinge the gates at Auschwitz?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. I can't remember who he's talking to either, but I remember
Yeah.
seeing
It was a great guest. For some reason, I don't remember his name. And he was an excellent guest.
Also, those damn iron chariots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those damn iron chariots.
Oh, was it Jonathan M.S. Pierce?
I don't think so.
No,
It doesn't ring a bell for me.
It was a long-haired
Secular
not.
Rarity.
Yeah. I think that's it.
I think it was SR.
He's great. SR. I met SR at Better. He's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a
really neat.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Pretty
I don't
sure.
remember him.
Yeah, I haven't seen him at anything
Yeah,
in person, but I mean,
I met Nitty
cool.
at better.
Best dinner ever.
It wasn't just better; it was the best. But yeah, I've seen SR like on Secular Haven and a couple other places. I'm like, dude's getting around.
Oh, he's been around.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about you. Like, saw you on Skeptics and Scoundrels, and I saw you someplace else.
All right, well,
I
Rosie
was like,
tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kitty.
I've been on Nitties. I've been on Gerstream.
Oh, I love being. I've seen you there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gur
I love
doesn't
Gur.
stream often enough anymore. Like, I don't know. I
And
don't know what
we
he's got going on.
Let's blame it on Mrs. Mania.
He's got to put himself out.
Ms. Mania. BS saw Ember on my channel. Amazingly enough.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah,
a thousand yet?
I've heard that's happened too.
Yeah.
I'll keep promoting
You
Ron
know,
Steele.
I feel like I put so much work into yesterday's episode that I just wanted to, I don't know, just kind of have a,
Aspen lives here. It's cool.
Yeah,
you know,
chilling is always nifty. I mean, if I didn't have
So-
shit going on, I'd be down for like just hanging out until I fall asleep on my microphone. But you know, it's
Nitty show us how
crunch
it's
time
done.
week for me. Yeah.
What?
I can't believe we've been on for 2 hours talking about nothing. Like it's 2-hour Seinfeld episode or something. Oh, thank you, BS.
Yeah. Yeah, someday,
that-
you know, future archaeologists will go back over this and be like, the fuck were people thinking in that decade?
You know what? I completely agree that I'm merely putting it out there, not so that I can be famous or anything, but at least that there's a contending or a dissenting opinion on this stuff.
Right.
That
That's important.
not all of us were crazy, because the truth is going to come out. It always does. Just because
I'm not convinced.
a con man is successful doesn't mean we should all continue to follow him.
Correct.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys. I need to get some sleep.
Yeah, same.
Nitty, I'm right behind you. All right, cheers all. When let's
Everybody
you know what?
run
Let's
out
go
at
with
once.
that's all. Let's yeah, thank you, BS. And then I think we should close on this one right here. This quote, what happens in Rome stays in Rome. And there's no place like Rome.
Click your heels 3 times.
No place like home. Click your heels 3 times. And that's my story. I'm sticking to it. All right. Hey, just remember, folks, that you can get your free gift of salvation if only you would accept Bloody Jesus. And that he gave means Bloody Jesus. Oh, Bloody Jesus. And if God really did love his son, he would have just hugged him instead of gave. Because Bloody Jesus isn't evil, so evil. Everyone sees it as good.
Well,
Nitty, thank you for stopping by.
Oh yeah. Good time, man.
Thank you for stopping by. And Amber, I greatly appreciate you stopping by and meeting you for the first time. Nitty's a co-host, technically, so he's like old hat.
Nitty's all official and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Not anymore. All right, let's do the alto bow tie. Bow tie, bless you with y'all. I have in the description under the guests for the ad symbol for Ember. Please check out his channel if there's any of my subscribers
He's
that
close
aren't.
to 1K. Get him up there.
Getting close.
And I'll add Nitty. All right, I appreciate it, guys. Bow tie, bless.
Night, folks.
I bid you adieu.